Okay. For people who are joining this, we are looking at functionality related to chat in Wolfram Language for version 12. This is a package of chat tools, and this is the language level design of chat sessions. So let's start off. Okay, so we have a menu item here, new chat session. So I know, okay, so what I add here, let's say chat meeting review meeting. And then I might say, so these are new contacts, but I can't, okay, so I press OK here. Why is it that they were not invited until after the first message? That just seems wrong to me.
Well, the idea was that if you accidentally selected people, or if you sent it out to the wrong group of people, then you might not want them to get immediate invitations. But it's certainly subject to be changed.
I think that shouldn't be that way.
I mean, it mimics other chat systems, right? Like you open up a new message on your phone, as soon as you put in a contact, they don't get a message. You know, until you have something to send, they don't receive anything.
No, but by the time you say, the thing I just did here, right, was I just said new chat session, and I'm pressing, well, wait a minute, why doesn't this say here, start session? I mean, this has to do with contact management, and that's one thing, but why don't we have a button here that says, I mean, down here, it could just be okay. If you're using this as a contact manager, that's a different use case than if you're using it to start a session. Am I making sense?
No.
But this is kind of wrong.
I don't understand. Are you saying we now need a contact manager interface that's divorced from who you're chatting with?
No, I think this is fine. I'm just saying that as soon as you say start the session, I mean, if you say cancel, does it back out the contacts that you... No, wait a minute. So, hold on. Look, this thing here should say start new chat session. Okay? That should be the header here.
Okay.
And then down here, it should say start session or something.
Well, start is probably good enough.
Start, yeah. And as soon as you say start, it's like you're off and running. It doesn't have a weird, you know, they'll only be invited after you first send a message.
Start is start. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So then we get rid of this.
So then the invitation shows up on everybody else's screen when you say start.
Yeah, when you say start. Okay, so what just happened here? No idea. Okay. We have a question on the live stream about auto execution. Does it in fact auto execute on the other end? That seems crazy. If I say, for example, something like this. Okay, and then I say, and so I say Alt, what is it doing? Alt return to send it. Oops, that didn't work. Alt return to send it. That didn't work. It said Alt enter. Is that different from Alt return?
No, it's not different, and it works for me. So I don't know what that means.
Well, it's an option key on a Mac, right?
Right.
Okay, so I press Alt. I've even got an enter key on one. No, it just beeps at me. Okay, so what's happening there? It's totally confused. Okay.
Just as a detail, I mean, what happens if you use the menu item for what is it? Insert similar cell below. Isn't that a cell with the same style in the insert menu?
Okay, what just happened here? I mean, how did it lose my? But by the way, is there any option to get it to go beep beep or something when a new chat message comes in?
At this time, no.
You should have that. Seems useful.
I think that's actually not true. When Igor was designing the channel framework, he.
By the way, I assume Igor is here, right?
If he isn't, no, he's not. He's not really part of documenting the pure chat interface.
Needs to be here. Needs to be here.
Okay, I'll get him.
Okay.
In any case, there is a way to put a sound in, but I think it's just several, hard-coded built-in default.
That's not useful, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, well, so long as we can give that, like when you set up the session, or when you. Okay, so chat settings. Okay, so here it would be that dialogue would be the place where we would have something about notification sound. Make sense?
Sure, that makes sense. Do we want to address that question that was in the live stream about evaluation?
Yes. I mean, what's the story with that?
What was the question? I didn't get
the question. Is, does it auto-evaluate? When this arrived on your machine, what happened?
I see lambda.
Okay, you don't see this didn't evaluate.
No.
Okay. No, why are there no cell brackets there? Oh,
there are.
Why don't we leave the cell brackets in there? Why do we have to remove the cell brackets?
It's a little cleaner.
It was the design,
Well, I mean, for the case of something like this, it seems kind of odd to not have the cell bracket. I mean, it might be reasonable in the case of
plain text.
Yeah, plain text, the cell bracket is kind of weird. But in this case, where it's an input and an output, well, I mean, okay, so let's imagine.
That follows a pattern we use elsewhere, so yeah, we could do that.
Okay, so send me a piece of code here, somebody. Okay, so now, what do I do? What is my minimal path? It's kind of ugly, right? My minimal path, I can copy this, right? And I can put it into a new notebook. Oh, for
actually,
you're gonna. What the heck is that? What is that? What is that garbage?
That is a bug that I think has been fixed already. So this is related to the fix to copying. That's what you were going to bring up. So select the cell, and if you just select the whole cell and copy it, this should work, and you should just get an. Well, okay, fine. So Jay, let's look at this.
Is Jay here?
Yeah, he's here. We'll look at it after the meeting. This should have worked. It works for me. Maybe.
Okay, are we sure that we don't want click to copy? That we don't want the whole cell to just be click to copy?
So we tried that, and I think that one of the biggest complaints was that you had to click once into the notebook to bring it into focus, and then a second time to make the click to copy active.
Yeah, but in this case, you have to mess around drag selecting.
But that was regarded as intuitive, like as a natural experience. The focus issue would be different if it was a floating notebook or floating palette, but we don't do that. I don't think we want that.
No, I don't think we want that.
Yeah, the problem was that it wasn't clear that when you clicked it, you thought that you clicked to copy, but you actually just clicked to select. And then you went somewhere else and realized you didn't have it on your clipboard.
Okay. On our live stream, we're being asked, what happens if we do range of 10 to the 7? And I just say send that. Okay, it's just going to arrive as range of 10 to the 7, right? It's not going to evaluate.
Nope.
But now, if I go to here, I can't go there and say Shift-Enter, right? It's just going to beep at me. I think it should do better than just beeping. I mean, if you do Shift-Enter, I think it should have some notification that says you have to copy this out to evaluate it. I'm making sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it might, if we're talking about all the bells and whistles, it might even make sense for it to do the copy for you, throw it at the end of the notebook and evaluate it. Clearly that's what you're trying to do.
Well, not at the end of this notebook.
Well, maybe.
I don't think that's what you want. But I do think having a button here that says copy would be useful for the inputs.
And we talked about that too. The problem is if you have multiple inputs, you want to drag select. If somebody sent 4 or 5 inputs, you either have 4 or 5 buttons that you then have to copy each one at a time.
No, obviously, you don't want that.
And to be clear, this is not this is chat. It's not really a collaboration interface. If that's the intention, we have other ideas of how to build that. And the other point to cover here, and maybe why people are asking, is whatever action you take to evaluate ideally should be with real intention for your own security concerns, right? And people should understand that this is on a sandboxed kernel anyway. So we're already addressing security.
Wait. Why is it? But given that it isn't evaluating, why do we care if it's
dynamics? If you do dynamic of delete file of whatever,
Okay, so if I say dynamic of now, then that will give me something here. If I send that, you guys are in different time zones, or at least some of you are. And what will come up? So
because the time zone is in the data object. Never mind. Maybe because I'm in the same time zone as you. But it's ticking.
Okay, so can somebody who's in a different time zone say what this did?
I would have to be reinvited because I was not enabling chat services when you started.
Okay.
I have them now.
Manage.
So how do I know who's on this chat?
Go to manage participants. So this says everybody you invited, not everybody who's in this session. We don't have online status right now.
We need that. So now what happens? The list of participants has not changed. So what's it doing? I don't understand. What?
I guess you could maybe uninvite Andre and re-invite him. It's not like you're actually going to kick him out because he's not here.
Right.
Okay. So then I did that. And then I go back there. This is kind of kludgy. And then I say, okay, again.
Why was I checked?
I don't know why you were checked.
Maybe that's not...
Are you invited now?
I have to send a message.
And now what do I?
Send me a message so I can say Gesundheit.
Okay, that was just totally broken.
What build is this? I'm using today's and that bug is fixed. So.
Okay.
Just as an aside, is it a bug is it a bug that's not ticklish? I mean, that's not updating on your screen either. Like it's not ticking up.
Yeah, it's wrong.
Well, and is that related to the kernel we're putting this through?
It shouldn't be. No. I mean, do dynamic now in the Untitled 9 over there, Stephen. I'm betting it's the same thing.
What is going on here? That's wrong. Something has gone wrong here. That should be ticking up. So is it the case that I don't have some weird extra kernel for the chat tools? Is that correct?
No, that was done away with.
Okay, fine.
Wait.
There is an extra kernel, but it's
extra kernel.
It's not user facing though. You can't set it on, you can set it in code, but you can't set it from the menus.
And it's not visible from the menus.
Right. And it's not visible unless you know about it.
Okay, so Andre, did you successfully get this?
I did not.
And why not?
And it's not clear about them.
Okay, so this is what's wrong. Do we have Igor here? We have Igor here?
I don't think he's part of this.
It's entirely possible.
Already here.
Yeah, okay.
This is probably an edge case that just didn't get, somebody who was invited to the chat but didn't make it to the chat, re-adding them, have...
Actually, that's a known open bug. It's a known open bug, and it's on my V12 list, so to be fixed.
Okay. So if you want to test time zone, add Igor and Brady. And
I did. So what does it come out as? Could you tell me the answer, please? Did it work, or did it not even send it to you?
I didn't get something if you added me.
I did get it. Igor might not have chat enabled either.
Well, he better have chat enabled. Okay, so here I don't... What is it, Brady?
Brady. Oh, got it. Okay, you don't have to send it in, but for me to get the invite on that. It's showing up at the right time zone exactly right now.
I'm sorry?
You're at GMT minus 6?
Time, yeah, and it's showing 12:36 for me. Which is, yep, okay.
Wait a minute. It showed the same time, 12:36:07, but GMT -6.
You say 13. It's showing. It's doing the right thing, Stephen. It's showing Central Time for Brady.
Okay, but of the same, but not of a reevaluated dynamic. What just happened?
I just sent you a screenshot so that you could see, so that I don't have to explain.
Okay. 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 Okay.
And I'll make sure that bug is reported for the dynamic now.
It's nice that I can resize that. Okay. So how reliable do we think all of this is? Or are we still full of race conditions and things being dropped and so on?
Well, there's certainly an open situation where, and because of how this was originally designed, we occasionally run into messages not making it into the saved backup index. But that's
clearly wrong.
It is.
What are we doing?
But it's a not simple thing to fix.
Okay, so explain the architectural mistake that was made.
The architectural mistake that was made is that these chat indices, each particular chat index, say a chat room, is backed by a single cloud object. That cloud object is updated whenever somebody sends something to add that send to the cloud
So there are
object.
race conditions. So we didn't think of that. Is that right?
That was overlooked in the original design.
Oh, how could that possibly have been overlooked? I mean, that's like a basic thing about a chat system. Okay. So what are you telling me then? Because then we basically, this can't work.
No, it's more than that. I mean, I think that there is a problem just with the cloud object not handling potential collisions, right?
Well, the rest of the issue here is that the cloud object would be fine if there were a way to enforce sequential updates to it. But
no, I thought that we had agreed that was happening. Wait. I thought we had a way to do that. I thought there was a locking mechanism that we agreed on a few months ago that Joel Klein was implementing.
If that's true, this was all done longer than a few months ago. If there is a locking mechanism, then we might be able to use it.
But I know what you're talking about, and I've been tracking that cloud ticket. I didn't see it finished, but I'll check on it now.
Well, let's get Joel here. I'm asking.
Okay.
Okay, because if so, you're saying if we do have a locking mechanism for cloud objects, then we can prevent that problem here. Is that correct?
Yeah, assuming it's implemented in such a way that plays nice with APIs, which I would think it would be, then yeah.
Okay, so if I say create chat, what is it going to do?
That
brings up that.
Mm-hmm. These are all, I make no guarantees that these are fully fleshed out functions at all. You know, at some point there should be a create chat that actually takes arguments and lets you fill this stuff out. This was all stopgap.
Okay, so brings up a chat session dialog is basically what that does, correct?
Yep. That's exactly what it does. Yep.
Okay. So, by the way, I'm saving these things back into this area.
Yeah, we'll take care of it. That's
good.
Okay. So do we have a workflow that describes, so the use cases that we are aware of for this include things like classroom settings. It includes, for example, the live streaming that I'm trying to do with these NKS book coding things where I would like people, what is the best path for having people who are watching a live stream be able to either send code in or receive code?
Hi there.
Hi. Okay, can we get an answer to that question first? What's the right mechanism in this to do that?
Using this?
Yes, using this.
For classrooms?
No, I'm asking, well, both for, it's basically the same question.
I mean, if you don't care who sees what, then like if you don't care who sees what code's coming in from anybody, then you can just make an open chat room that you tell people what it is. They can join and leave as they will, and they just send stuff and everybody else sees
Why
it.
is that even called a chat room? Why isn't that just a channel broker scenario where people have subscribed to the channel? And
because we need a UX for where the stuff arrives.
Yeah, okay. Well, sometimes that might just want to be in a person's notebook. Also, for the competition situation, we had of a palette that there is no notebook gathering everybody's stuff. They choose to insert it into a notebook that they have open or copy from it to send, so that's another scenario.
Okay, let me ask the question of Joel here. So this chat stuff is kind of totally broken because of various kinds of locking that aren't there. And the question was, I thought we had designed a lock mechanism for cloud objects some time ago. Is that not correct?
Not quite. There's no finished design. There was a couple of ideas.
Really? I thought we finished a design. What was the?
No.
Remind me what the function that we had talked about for that was.
That's what I'm trying to look up right now. I have my own notes, but I don't think that's what we're talking about.
Do I have to find it myself?
You can look. I'm continuing to look for the ticket. So I found my own notes.
I mean, aren't we talking about the two generals problem?
Yeah, but we have a mechanism for dealing with this. We invented a mechanism for dealing with this. Gosh, where is this?
And it's not fair to characterize it as totally somewhat broken. It's really, that's just for the archival record of the chat. It doesn't, my understanding is it doesn't impact the actual live chatting that takes place. Is that right, Brian?
That's right. That just the live chatting just happens over the channel framework. It doesn't involve cloud objects at all.
Okay.
Cloud Object Protect was the name.
That's the correct name. Yeah, that's the right name. So what happened to the implementation of that?
Well, there's some design for it. There's some problems that I identified, some problems to be solved in implementation, mainly to do with if the lock gets removed, notifying whoever's holding the lock reliably.
Okay.
So is the intention that it works like symbol protecting and unprotecting, where in order to, so if you wanted to change it, the method would be on a protected cloud object, you'd unprotect it, change it, and protect it again? Or is it implemented somehow differently or designed somehow differently?
The function interface was you supply an object and then some code to evaluate under lock.
Right. So that code would lock that cloud object for the duration. It's more like a bot protect.
I see.
Okay. Well, so does it need a meeting to figure out more detail about how this should work?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Then we need to get that. Okay. Well, all right, fine. So can we get that requested, please? Brady, can you request that? Who is the project manager for this?
Yeah, I'll request it. Sorry.
Who's the project manager dealing with this? Is that Matt?
I think it would be, yeah.
Okay.
I'll message him about it.
Okay, great. Well, I think that's everything we needed from you, Joel. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Joel.
Okay. What is this? So wait a minute. If I say create chat room, so are you telling me that there's a global name, A, for example?
So, okay, the difference, let's talk quickly about the difference between these two things. When you go to file new chat or use create chat, those are kind of one-off chats. You start them with people. When everyone quits them, that chat ceases to be. Create chat room creates a persistent chat, such that if nobody's in it, it doesn't care. It's still there. But to answer your specific question, that short name A is, yes, that is globally unique.
Oh, wow. That's really weird.
I mean, if you had a different way to make sure that they couldn't get confused, we could consider it. But
well, I don't understand why it isn't a URL type thing. I mean, this URL is something completely grotesque, right? But in general, it's like going to somebody's API or something. I mean, this chat room should just have a URL that includes, for example, I don't know, the initiating user's base or a UUID.
Sure, but then how would you join it? Yeah, that A is the way that people join the room. They, in the file new chat, they put A in there.
Well, it's just like
joins the room.
You could say you're a web browser. How on earth do you go to a website? Well, the answer is you type in the URL. And it's the same thing here. You want to join a chat session, you have to type its URL, basically. I mean, the fact that you can just say, I want to go to chat session A is a completely non-scalable thing that doesn't seem to make much sense to me. Right? I mean, unless you are in... Yeah, I mean, you should be able to alias that, perhaps. But it seems to me that the actual name, just like this name, except this is particular grotesque, what happens if I go there?
It's just not a splat, but a generic page.
And if the channel broker was using MQTT, would that be, I mean, this right now even exists because the channel broker is using HTTP. Is that true? Igor, maybe you can answer that.
That particular cloud object that you're referring to?
Yes, the fact that it's an HTTP cloud object. Is that not
Well, the whole architecture for MQTT will not change. Everything will remain the same. I'm not getting the question.
Oh, so there'll be a URL, an HTTP style URL.
Yes, but conceivably it would be not HTTPS, but MQTTS something.
No, that's what I'm asking, because this is an HTTP transport thing, right?
But that is not built in, as far as I understand. As far as I understand, it is just a URL that is returned by create channel.
I understand that, but it's not a URL. For example, we could imagine that a chat room could have a homepage, right? A web homepage, just like a cloud object can have has a web presence. MQTT does not have a web presence.
MQTT does not, but there is a HTTP bridge that does.
Okay.
We also have a notion of there being a limit to how many rooms any user can create. I believe that's currently enforced.
Jay would have to say.
Yeah.
Jay, can you say that, please? Jay here?
Yeah, it's not built in.
But we certainly have discussed it. I mean, I think the number of rooms at this point are small enough that it hasn't really mattered. I think we probably count on two hands.
Yeah, but I mean, sure. I can just write a loop. I'll write a loop.
Right, exactly.
Would you like me to blow this up? I'll just blow it up right now.
Well, I mean, you'll be the first person.
Right, but we know we have to get that in, that limit. We have it on our to-do list for this.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to limit developments right now just because when MQTT comes out, we'll be rebuilding a lot of this.
Put yourself on mute. We're hearing.
That's the MQTT server being built.
What is the status of the MQTT server?
Bob may give you a better update. As far as I know that Jesse worked on it, but I don't know the current status.
Sorry, who did you say could give a better?
Bob. Jesse reports to Bob. Bob reports to me. They are working on it. Right. It is in progress. I don't have an exact status though of how far.
A couple of people on the live stream are saying that they would like a tabbed interface for multiple chats. It's not obvious to me how that would work, because if you if there's another chat going on, how do you even know? I mean, you have to have all kinds of elaborate UX about flashing the tab and things if there's a second chat. But I mean, I guess for example, Rocket Chat or something, I don't think you even know, do you? If you have multiple tabs for multiple chat sessions, how do you know if there's a message on a chat session that you don't currently, whose tab you have not currently? It lights up.
There'll be a little alert.
Yeah, and then I mean, there's also the badge app icon, which is really nice. It's on Macs at least, just to see that there's something going on in one of your windows in that app.
Okay.
I would say if you have a tabbed interface for notebooks, then that chat will be resolved automatically.
I agree with that. That was where I was going with it too.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Okay, so there's a question about whether this can be used for collaboration between Mathematica users, for example, in a pair programming scenario. To some extent, I don't think this is the best solution for that, but
right. We've discussed pure collaboration modes that would be better for that.
Well, it's not clear how those would possibly work with I mean, in the cloud, it's much more obvious how that would work. Right? I mean, you have a trade-off. Do you really want some other person to be able to essentially grab the notebook that you are currently editing? Well, or do we have an idea? You're saying with the channel framework, we could in principle say, I just don't know how that will possibly work. I mean, I think it's really
Bradley had mapped out some ideas for that. I don't know if you want to pull them in. That wasn't really the point of what we're doing here. We're trying to settle the
yeah, I mean, I think these are very, very weak, these things that we have here. I think this is, I think it's sort of usable.
It's bare. The language level stuff is bare bones. Make no bones about it.
And you've described, a lot of aspirations about the language level stuff. We have those notes. They're in your ILD folders.
Yeah.
What is this? Only the room creator. Other users will only see messages from themselves and moderators.
That's the teacher-student scenario.
Yeah. Prompted response.
Okay.
So only teachers see all of the students' messages. Students can't see each other's messages.
You have to be moderator level for everybody to see.
Yeah.
What you send.
So have we tried these things? I mean,
yeah, we used them for the live coding last year, and
yeah, and there was a horrible disaster.
Yeah, who did I have? I had somebody use them in a classroom. Maybe either Angie or
last year was not a horrible disaster. It worked just fine, actually. Last year.
Yeah, it wasn't.
The year before was the first time.
You mean last year, as in this current year?
No,
previous.
The year before last worked quite smoothly with these features, such as they were. They weren't necessarily designed for competition, but they worked as they needed to. Yeah. This year, we designed an actual competition palette and system that went beyond using the chat interface.
Okay.
So the first year of the competition, we decided to try and use these tools a week or two before the conference. And as I warned you, it was likely to fail, and it sort of did. But then Igor had some working examples that played well for the event, that weren't so much based on our chat interface.
All right, let's see what else we have to look at here, because I think this is, this seems modify room moderators list still.
Yeah, so previously there just wasn't a way for people to update the moderators on, for instance, a prompted response chat room, and that's really pretty necessary after the fact. Otherwise, they would have had to delete the chat room and recreate it with a new list of moderators.
Well, so why isn't it a set options on what does create chat room return? It returns just some weird channel cloud object. It should return some kind of blob that's a chat room object, right? Which contains the cloud object, but also has other stuff. And then the correct way to deal with the changing the moderator list is some kind of set options on the chat room object.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think that's the correct design, rather than some weird function for modify room moderators list.
Right. Well, then the question is, do we want to expose this experimentally for now and let people actually do this thing, or do we want to just not expose anything and do it right? And expose it now, knowing that we're going to have to change how we do it later.
Well, I think that function Okay, what are the things that you're doing here? So this is just stupidly wrong, if I might say so. I mean, this room moderators should obviously be some sub-value of the object, right?
Well, fine. Given that design, then that's fine. But I mean, my question still stands. We're not going to get chat room object for version 12. We have a chance to get these. I mean, these are actually already implemented. It's just we have a chance to expose them.
So you're saying that create chat returns a cloud object. Is that what you're basically saying?
Create chat room returns a channel object. Yeah. Or, well, it's a cloud object that is a channel object, I guess.
And create chat returns nothing.
Create chat just opens up the dialogue.
Bizarrely. Even when you press OK in the dialogue, it doesn't. So does it do that in a blocking way, or does it do that in an asynchronous way?
Create chat is the same thing, basically, as going to file new chat session. It's run using the front end. It is not kernel blocking.
So that's wrong. I mean, it shouldn't be called create chat.
Well, create chat would, once this is further designed, create chat will actually take arguments. Does that change your statement that create chat shouldn't be called that?
Look, the only thing that I don't understand what the difference between create, create chat should return some kind of chat object. I mean, how can it not return something right now? What is the handle to the chat that you're talking about?
It does exist, but it is not made at, when you evaluate create chat, it starts that dialogue, right? There is no chat yet because you haven't started it yet. Because then, as we were discussing, that dialogue is to start.
That's just wrong. That's just wrong.
Wrong. Okay.
That's just wrong. It should create chat. It can go through the dialogue, or you can give it an association that has the information that's in the dialogue, and it should return a chat object. Okay, and when it brings up the dialogue, it should be a blocking thing that just allows you to, fill it in as a dialogue just as a courtesy, so to speak, and then return the chat object at the end. And then that chat object should presumably have some kind of chat execute type thing that allows you to whatever actions there are in the chat, like adding something, like sending something from the chat. It should allow you to just do that. I mean, send message, for example, arguably should take a chat object as a first argument and send the message on that chat session.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. I think that's the right design.
Yeah, and as Brady alluded to, a lot of that stuff has been defined. It's just awaiting oxygen.
Okay. Well, has it been okay? But so your question right now is how can we cauterize these rather horrifying? I mean, so create chat room is returning just a cloud object, which is so wrong. And the question is, I mean,
the kind of entity thing you're talking about that it would create is not something my team has ever built. So that gets another question.
It's really quite easy. I mean, that's just returning. It's just returning something with an association that contains this. I mean, it would literally internally, it would just be a chat object of, and then some association which has a bunch of information, including, broker location or something, whatever it is, arrow, that cloud object thing. Make sense?
But is there a standard rendering of that we
yes, there is. There is. You have to hook in. Yes, you have to hook into the
the standard object thingy, right? Same thing that data bins use, the search result objects, things like that. The great pod.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. And then, there should be an L value. It should be possible to say chat object of, well, it would actually be two things: chat object and chat room object. Okay. And chat room object could have a moderators there, and then you could say something like, change that moderators to blah 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 blah. If you own the chat room to the point where you could do that.
Why couldn't those be the same kind of object? I mean, if
we talked about chat session object last last time that we talked about this months ago. I don't know if that could serve as one.
I mean, I don't see why
so.
chat object and chat room object have to be different at the language level.
Okay, it's not obvious to me. I thought that this was a specific chat session, as opposed to a location for chats to occur in. Am I confused there? I mean, a chat room is a persistent thing. A chat session is a thing that happens for a certain period of time and then closes down again.
That's a good point.
Yeah, but well, I think I need to think about it a little bit more. But a chat room, I mean, at the time that you're interacting with it, are they, what interactions would you do on an object that you wouldn't want to do to a session, or that you couldn't do to a session? Persistent object, I mean.
I'm amused by Ethan on the live stream saying this functionality exemplifies Zawinski's law. I not remember what Zawinski's law is. It's the law that every program attempts to expand until it can read mail.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly surprised at how complex this simple concept of I'm talking to somebody else gets in terms of all the options and configurations needed.
Yes, I agree. Just think what it must have been like when people were first making AOL Instant Messenger. It's surprising it ever worked. I don't even know if that was the first chat thing. Okay. So what are we going to do right now with this? I mean, this is simply a package, but I think, oh boy, what other features are there other than the moderators? Are there other things? I mean, this is going to the short name of the. That's very weird.
Well, and that's all contingent on using that as the unique identifier for one of these rooms. If we go to a URL, then it would be that, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, you can modify or view the moderators. You can, another thing that we were missing that we added for 12 was being able to view all of your chat rooms, all the chat rooms that you've made. It's just chat rooms. Yep.
That's it? Well, I've never done this before.
Or you've deleted them. I mean, if you did this before we released 11.3, then we probably cleaned the list when this was officially released. So anything that you'd done before maybe got scrubbed.
Okay. Look, this stuff is pretty messy. In terms of what we're going to do with these two functions, I'm kind of almost in the, if we had a chat room information function, but the problem is it's only got one thing in it. I don't know. Look, best thing I can suggest, we should rename this Chatroom Moderators, because that's at least a little bit less bizarre. Okay?
Yeah.
And then here, is it modify or what? Is this to be? Okay, so this is set chat room moderators. And why one of them gets a list and the other one doesn't, I have no idea. See what I'm saying? So this is chat room moderators and set chat room moderators. It's hardly beautiful, but it's at least not horrifying.
It's better.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, I'm trying to understand the roadmap for this. So do we have, I mean, there's some things like the existence of a sensible channel broker, the locking of cloud objects,
Dependencies. Okay.
the cleaning up of the UX for all of this. I mean, clearly, eventually, we'll need something talking about this Zawinski's law that everything expands until it can read mail. I think the another principle would be that everything eventually needs a general purpose AI in it. I mean, we need to have, it should be the case that there can be a bot in here.
Yeah, we've also started discussing chatbot functions before. So then after 12, I should have a design.
But I'm sorry, but by the way, what that is it's like the mail receiver functionality. It's a chat receiver functionality, right? That you say, in this chat room, I want to attach to this chat room, or maybe it's actually it's a chat room responder function, and it's part of, and anybody who can join the chat room could also have a bot join the chat room and insert a chat room responder function.
Specific to their machine. When we were originally talking about bots, I was thinking that bots would be, at least from the UX perspective, just a thing that you would invite using the same interface.
Then how is the bot going to work? I mean, the bot has got to be.
Well,
what is the code of the bot?
I'm not saying that it would be set up the same way when you invite it, but when you invite a bot, the function knows that it's a bot, and so it sets it up using. I mean, we have channel receiver function already, which is kind of what you're discussing.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty much. Yes.
And previously, you defined chat responder function. I'm looking at those notes.
Okay.
And chat listen as well. So after 12, I should have a design review meeting about this and the ways forward. And
yeah, and I think it's really important. Can we please identify with clarity the use cases here that we're talking about and make sure that they're actually clean? Okay, and there's a list, in fact, in a project list that I just made in the last couple of days, there's a list of use cases that I'm aware of for this.
Who has that?
Do you know who I should ask about that?
I can provide that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. There's a let's see. Carl on the live stream comments on Facebook Messenger and its interaction with chatbots. I have no idea what's involved in doing that. I have no idea whether you can have. I mean, we had looked at. In fact, we had preliminary versions of chatbots on Kik. I think also people have done them for Telegram. And I don't know whether we have. Do we have one for Rocket Chat? Anybody know? I mean, I've seen them implemented for lots of things, particularly people calling the Wolfram Alpha API in a chat session. I have to say, I don't think that it's been a runaway success in any of these cases. I mean, obviously, we've also got things like our tweeter program mechanism on Twitter. I mean, we don't have any internally with our own chat systems inside the company. Oh, and I think people have implemented them on Slack also. But I don't think, I mean, I don't know what, yeah, I mean, particularly with natural language understanding, there are some fairly interesting things that could be done with bots. And I mean, I think interest waxes and wanes for those things. And actually, it's something we should add to the list of, what chatbot functionality do we think we're trying to support? And what are the use cases for that?
Okay.
So, by the way, to get rid of this chat session, what do I do? I mean, do I just close it, or what do I do? And does that close it for everybody, or what happens then?
So what should happen now is you should be able to close the window and then you leave the chat. That will not end the chat for everybody.
It ends when everybody leaves it. The last person shuts off the lights.
Second to last person, right? Because once you're by yourself, it's no longer a chat.
Really? What if you added somebody else?
No. So once there's only one person left, the doc cell at the top is stripped out, and it's just a notebook.
Yeah. I mean, you get appropriate messaging that says
I don't know, that's
the chat has been discontinued.
Well, let's see it happen. Why don't you guys drop off?
Yeah, use in the hamburger menu, click on exit chat.
Well, Stephen shouldn't. The others should.
Yeah, have somebody else do that. Okay.
Well, why don't I go to manage participants and just kick everybody out? Where is manage participants? Why isn't it coming up? There. Okay, I'm just kicking everybody out. Okay. Why? Why does it say this? I want to chat with myself.
It's no longer a chat. It's just a notebook.
But so what? I mean, why change that? Because after all, I can easily go back in and add somebody. I might have, look, it's a corner case where you have a big meeting, everybody's left, you're about to start another meeting, different people are going to join. I don't think that's, I think it's completely wrong. It's like a famous example of a really bizarre design decision is the Unix mail program, where if you say mail and then the the name of one or more people, it'll send mail to those people. If you say mail with no arguments, it'll read your mail. So, that if you write a program which is sending out a notification, for example, and it so happens that it sends the notification to 0 people, it'll disgorge mail all over the screen.
Sure. I mean, but maybe the question then is, if you are using this in a way that it spans meetings and is kind of persistent, why wouldn't you just use a chat room?
Well, I think that's part of the whole UX design review that we need to do on this.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, I think we've cauterized this enough for the 12.0 release. It's experimental. It's a package.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
And as part of it going forward, the hope is that it will become system level, and as part of that, it would be cleaned up and
fair enough.
Have to load the package, et cetera.
All right. I think we're wrapping up here. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks to folks on the live stream. See you all soon.